The 2017 and 19 manifestos, which proved themselves to be very popular. We were condemned for the amount of money we wanted to spend on investment, all of which has now happened because of the COVID crisis. I would have concentrated on the levels of inequality and injustice in our society. I wouldn't have given the Tories any space or any support for their shambolic and incompetent handling of so much to do with COVID, and offer people a vision of social justice, offer people a vision of safe, secure, permanent jobs, not the sort of fly-by-night insecure economy, which is the main message that Boris Johnson's Tories are offering. We could give out
But people
a very
here have
clear
voted Conservative.
that would be different.
You know, they voted for Boris Johnson. Isn't it possible they like what they're getting, you know, and they're not interested in a left-wing Labour prospectus?
A lot of people didn't vote as well, actually. I think we have to make, as a Labour Party, a very clear pitch on what social justice would look like, what real opportunity would look like, because people have had far too long of this kind of economic strategy, which leaves so many people poor, and indeed, since the COVID crisis begun, the levels of inequality in Britain have got worse. The millionaires that have come as a result of government spending on COVID, all of these things need to be challenged. You don't succeed in challenging the government if you spend your time agreeing with what their strategy is. I don't agree with their strategy. Right. I don't support their strategy. What I want to see is a different world.
But the other side of the Labour Party think that you are the problem, that this loss was your legacy, that you'd done so much damage up here and moved Labour so far away from aspiration and what people wanted in places like Hartlepool, that it's really you that's the problem, and that the longer you keep talking about that kind of vision, the more Keir Starmer needs to take you on and drum you out.
During my time as leader of the party, we trebled our membership to 600,000. We developed a democratic form of policy making. We didn't impose things on people. We developed that democracy within the party. And whilst we didn't obviously win in 2019, I know that better than anybody else, the vote we got, the national popular vote we got, was the highest of any election since 2001, excepting the very big vote we got in 2017. So to say our policies were unpopular is simply not true. And I think the party has to recognise what its roots are, what its principles are, and meet people's needs. Insecure housing, insecure work, insecure jobs, insufficiency of benefit, terrible mental health stress and poverty as a result of the COVID pandemic. These are the issues that Labour should be speaking up for. Many people on the doorsteps, and I found the same yesterday in my own constituency, where, by the way, we had some very, very good results in local elections. I found that people simply wanted to know what the Labour Party now stands for. I think we've got to be clear. Keir Starmer was elected leader on the basis of supporting the policies that he himself had advocated in the general election.
Isn't there the hangover of Brexit, though, here as well? Boris Johnson certainly thinks Brexit had quite a lot to do with this. And I just wonder whether you now regret perhaps not following your own instincts, as many people understood them, and being a Brexiteer.
Well, Brexit is obviously still a debate. It's still an issue. I led the party in order to try to keep the party together, to bring together both Remain and Leave people, all of whom were suffering the same kinds of social problems and social injustice. That was the offer we made. OK, it's well known that that particular aspect of policy didn't work in 2019, but Brexit has happened. What's important now is having a sensible trading relationship with Europe. There were options on the table, and the party came together to choose the option that I advocated in the 2019 election. And by the way, every single member of the Shadow Cabinet supported that policy.
Now, Keir Starmer is talking about radical change. He's saying really fundamental things need to change. If that involves, as many people are advocating, taking on the left and saying, you are not the future of this party, Labour needs to go back to something that can unite, you know, Britain the way it did under Tony Blair, perhaps, what will you do? I mean, do you see yourself as coming back into the centre of Labour politics?
I've never left Labour politics, and I will always be part of Labour politics, and my voice will always be there making the case for what I believe is necessary as some radical changes in this country. And whilst the results were obviously very, very bad in parts of the country, particularly in some of the Midlands and the North East, the results from Wales seem actually quite good. I think that's a credit to Mark Drakeford, who has never apologised for being a socialist and indeed has promoted radical policies himself. And so I think
should Keir Starmer quit?
Message has got to be, I think what we need to do is think of the results, analyse the results, and respect what was said in the leadership campaign of January onwards of 2020, in which it was said that the manifesto on which we fought the 2019 election, those policies on investment, those policies on universal free broadband, those policies on a national education service should be stuck to. It's up to him what he decides to do. But the important thing is that this party represents a real radical alternative to inspire people. Offering nothing, offering insipid support for the government causes people either to vote for somebody else or simply to stay home and disappear.
Just finally, I mean, obviously you're not a Labour MP because of what you said about anti-Semitism. Can you just clarify, you don't think anymore that the scale of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party was overstated for political reasons, do you? Because that's what you once said.
What I did was quoted the numbers of people affected by it. Let's be clear, anti-Semitism is an evil and a poison within our society. I changed party processes to deal with anyone that was committing any utterances of anti-Semitism in any way. I asked Shami Chakrabarti to review the whole process. She did, and the HRC report actually recognised the good work she had done, and I accepted the HRC recommendations, and they should be carried out. But we have to defeat anti-Semitism and any other form of divisive racism, because racism is automatically divisive within our society. And I will always,
Jeremy Corbyn,
always be on the side of the anti-racist.